Hi everyone, welcome back to another day on my plate. I'm sharing what I ate one day recently, starting with breakfast, and for this I had a yogurt bowl with maple and almond butter toasted oats. I've made my toasted oats so many times in videos, so I'm going to skim over this, but I melted a teaspoon of coconut oil in a flat pan. The oil I used was actually a mild odourless coconut oil, so it didn't have a strong coconut flavour, and I think I actually prefer this to regular coconut oil. I next added half a cup of jumbo oats to the pan and toasted them off until they were lovely and golden. It smells like popcorn and it's so good. I next measured out 1/4 cup of oat milk and then poured that in, and I also just sprinkled over a pinch of sea salt. I then just keep that cooking until the oats absorb all of the milk and get a little bit bigger in size. I next took around a tablespoon of maple syrup, and then I also took the same amount of smooth almond butter. I added those in together and then I just mixed that up until it was smooth. At this point I turned off the heat on the oats and I drizzled most of the maple almond butter into the pan, but reserved a little bit. And then I just turned it through the oats until they were all mixed through it and covered in it really well. I next grabbed some yogurt. I believe this one is a new one from Light and Free, New Week, New Yogurt. There are so many new vegan yogurts to try at the moment. This is their vanilla oat yogurt, but honestly, I'm not a fan of this one, not a fan. I've tried a few oat yogurts and I find them to be really watery, the texture is a bit weird and it's just not like yogurt. So I'm sticking to my favourite soya and coconut yogurt. I took a couple of tablespoons of that and then I next added in the maple and almond butter toasted oats and also half a passion fruit because I love passion fruit with vanilla yogurt, it's so good. And then some strawberries and blueberries as well. I then took the remaining maple syrup and almond butter and just drizzled that over the top of everything. This breakfast was too good. I love my regular toasted oats, but mixing the maple syrup and almond butter in just made it next level. They're sweet, they're chewy, it's almost like a flapjack. Then with all of the flavours and the sharpness from the berries and the passion fruit, which was so nice with vanilla yogurt, it was all so good. I'll be making this again for sure, but maybe not with this yogurt. For lunch, I then made some of my chickpea tuna mayo on an open bagel. For this, I first added a can of rinsed and drained chickpeas into a mixing bowl. I finally chopped up a red onion, added that to the bowl. I next sliced up a stick of celery, and then I chopped it up as finely as I could, added that to the bowl, and then I also chopped up a bunch of fresh dill and added that to the bowl too. I had also chopped up 2 teaspoons of capers, so I added those in, along with 2 tablespoons of plain vegan yogurt, a tablespoon of vegan mayonnaise, the zest of half a lemon and then the juice of half a lemon, a teaspoon of red wine vinegar, a teaspoon of soy sauce, around a half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 1/4 teaspoon of chili flakes to make it like a spicy tuna mayo, and then I seasoned it really well with some sea salt and also some cracked black pepper. I mixed everything together and then I used a fork to mash it up well. Alternatively, you could add everything into a food processor and just pulse it a couple of times until it's mashed together. I then popped a whole wheat bagel in the toaster to toast, and once that was done, I had sliced up an avocado, so I put half of the avocado on each slice. And then I added the chickpea tuna mayo on top of that. You could add anything you like on top of this. I like to put some pumpkin seeds on top just to add some crunch. I also put a handful of rocket and spinach on the side, as well as some chopped up cherry tomatoes. I then took the other half of the lemon left over and I just squeezed that over everything, including the salad as well. I make this chickpea tuna mayo so often, especially during lockdown. I made it on a weekly basis as it's so easy to do and mainly uses cupboard essentials. You could make it in so many ways too. You could add in spring onion instead of the red onion. You could add in some tinned sweet corn, some chives instead of the dill, Loads of different ways that you could change this up, and I also use it in sandwiches, in wraps, in pittas, in pasta salads, on jacket potatoes. There's so many flavours going on, and it really is the closest thing to how I remember tuna mayonnaise tasting. It was so good on this open toasted bagel with the avocado. That worked really nicely with it, but as I said, there's so many ways that you can use this. For something after lunch, I had some more fruit. I cut up half a mango. I always use this little glass trick once I've sliced it up. Works like a charm every time. I squeezed the other half of the passion fruit over the cut up mango. I had also chopped up some fresh mint from my garden and added that on, as well as these chocolate coconut chips, which are really nice to snack on their own, but I thought that they would be really good with this. As I've said before, I've been snacking on fruit a lot more recently. Mango and melon I could just eat all day long. The passion fruit was really nice with this, as well as the fresh mint. They were really nice flavours together, like a little summer party on my plate. And these chocolate coconut chips are delicious too, really crunchy, and the combination of the rich chocolate with the coconut is so good. Then for dinner I made a tofu Thai green curry. I made the paste from scratch, so for this I took a handful of fresh coriander, stalks included because these have so much flavour, and I just chopped that up as finely as I could. I used a pestle and mortar for this, but you could alternatively blend everything up in a food processor. I added that to the mortar, then I peeled 2 shallots, chopped those up as finely as I could, then added those in with the coriander. I next minced up 4 cloves of garlic and then added those in too, but you could just use a garlic paste instead. I also finely chopped up 4 green finger chilies and added those in. I trimmed and gently bashed up 2 stalks of lemongrass, then finally chopped that up, leaving out any tougher pieces, added that into, again, you could use some lemongrass paste. I then took a good chunk of ginger and grated that up and added that in. You could also use ginger paste here too. I grated in the zest of 1 lime and then squeezed in the juice of the lime. I crumbled in 2 kaffir lime leaves. Fresh leaves work so much better, but they're harder to find. Dried still works well, and this just adds some really nice zinginess. I also added in around a teaspoon of the same odourless coconut oil, then a teaspoon of coriander seeds, half a teaspoon of ground cumin, around 8 whole black peppercorns, and a large pinch of salt. I then crushed that up into a paste. I'm not going to lie, this takes absolutely ages, but it's worth it. Though like I said, it is much easier to do it in a food processor. Once the paste was made, I cubed up a block of firm tofu. I do them quite chunky because I find that they shrink slightly when baked. I placed the tofu cubes in a bowl, then added in a good heaped tablespoon of the green curry paste. I then gently turned the tofu through it and just tried to get it as well coated as possible. At this point I'd preheated the oven to 180 degrees Celsius, and then I placed the green curry coated tofu cubes on a silicone baking sheet. This one is from Net Zero Waste. And I then placed that in the oven to bake for 25 to 30 minutes, and I turned them over halfway through. I then placed around 3 more tablespoons of the curry paste in a wok with some coconut oil. I reserved the rest for another curry later in the fridge, and I fried that off for around 5 minutes. I then added in a can of full fat coconut milk, just brought everything to a gentle simmer and let that cook away for around 15 minutes. I then wanted to cook my veg in the sauce, so I first cut up a white onion into wedges, added that into the pan, and then next I trimmed and chopped up a green bell pepper and added that into the pan too. I cooked the onion and the green pepper in the sauce for around 8 minutes, before then next adding in a bag of sugar snap peas. and I cooked those for a further few minutes. Again, with this curry, we had some Mr. Organic legume rice. This is the green pea rice. It's literally just made from green pea flour, so super high in protein, and it's got the same texture as rice. It's really good. I cooked that while the curry continued to cook. At this point, I also chopped up some tender stem broccoli to go in too. I like to add this towards the end so that it keeps a bit of a crunch to it. I added that to the pan along with some salt and black pepper and just gave everything a good stir through. I next removed the green curry tofu from the oven, and at this point it should be golden, crispy and smelling delightful. I added the tofu into the pan next. I'd also cut off some more fresh coriander, chopped it up and added it in, and then just gave it another gentle stir through. Once the rice was cooked, I drained that off. As I mentioned before, this is cooked like pasta instead of how you'd usually cook rice, so there's always excess water. And then I plated up the green pea rice first. Last but not least, I squeezed in the juice of half a lime in the pan, and then I served up the curry between our bowls. This made 2 quite large portions altogether. And then also added in all of that delicious coconutty broth that was left in the bottom of the pan. I squeezed the other half of the lime over the bowls and added some more coriander on top. I know so many of you don't love coriander in the same way that I do, but you could use Thai basil in the paste and in the curry at the end instead. It works just as well and it has so much flavour. This curry was so good. As I mentioned before, we have Thai curry at least once a week. It's one of my favourite meals, and after showing a Thai red curry in my last video, you guys asked me how I make my paste from scratch, so this is how I make my green curry paste. I love baking the tofu with the green curry paste on it. The texture is amazing, it absorbs all of the flavours. It's kind of chewy on the inside but crispy on the outside, with all of the veg and that insane Thai green curry coconut broth. This is always such a good meal. Then for dessert, I grabbed one of these Nobu salted chocolates from the fridge. These come in a few different flavours like orange, mint and plain milk chocolate. And this one is basically just made from coconut butter, sugar, cacao nibs, cashew nut butter, coconut and sea salt. This isn't quite Nomo chocolate level though, which is my absolute favourite vegan chocolate. If you haven't tried that, you have to. That's it for another day on my plate. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, all of the recipes are written up in the description box below for you to recreate. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!